Kingston Prison was a very interesting thing to research. In this picture, I see men on a treadmill trying to walk up as each step is moving because everyone else is moving around them. I see men that have worked really hard and have grown very muscular legs just to keep doing this type of work. I'm sure that they have done lots of work to be there and get things done because they are inmates, but specifically inmates in prison in Portsmouth, New England. I see that this photo is in black and white and how the prison walls look so enclosed. Maybe it's very hard to breathe and they're super dirty and very unhumane for these prisoners. This is called the tread wheel. It was abolished in 1898, but it had taken place in different areas of the world. This one was in Kingston Prison, and it had seemed to affect the prisoners a lot because they were very notorious, and being locked up, they had nothing else to do. At least that's what the public thought. A little bit of background on treadmills. About 200 years ago, the treadmill was invented in England as a prison rehab center, or a rehab device. William Cubitt created the treadmill in 1818, and he had called it the tread wheel because it was meant to do other things than actually for people to run on them. William Cubitt was very famous in making the treadmills designs, and he had his most popular edition at the Brixton Prison in London, which had a wide wheel. It moved, and then presenting each step, so each step that you would take, it would go. But this treadmill could take up to as many as 24 prisoners, as long as they were exactly right next to each other, having no room to breathe. Imagine that now, being on a treadmill, being right next to somebody, and it's really hot or really cold, and all you have to do is keep stepping and stepping. The treadmill was wide. Prisoners pressed down on their feet and stepped on it, and then the wheel would move. A lot of criminals were seen as laborers, and they wanted to be seen as if they were getting better. At least that's what the government would have wanted, right? But these prisoners were just labored away and used for their work. This treadmill was used in different places. So, for example, in Kingston Prison in Ontario, Canada, it was this certain specific prison was built in 1835, and it took about 2 years to build. And they had finally closed it down in 2013, which is a very long time open. It was one of the highest maximum security prisons and was home to the worst criminals. And that is where they also used a hamster's like in wheels going over and over again, but humans were doing that. This was nowhere near reforming a prison because people were being used for their labor. They didn't have the opportunities to go and work for somewhere else or get paid even. Certain things like that had left these workers so super tired, running on a treadmill just for their labor. While in prison, these treadmills used to crush grain and pump water. These were the punishment for prisoners, to reform them, to make them feel as they are better humans. This was to lessen the death penalty, but I feel like it might have just made it worse since more people probably would have died from going on the treadmill and excessively working their body until they can't anymore. Especially since they're in prison, it has affected them with different activities because they can't imagine being so exhausted that you can't eat or you can't go on to do more work, which is what the prisons wanted because they wanted to, quote, reform you. It was forced labor. All these people were working in very harsh conditions. The equivalent thing to current day is being a firefighter in prison. In California, a lot of prisoners are firefighters and only get paid like 8 cents. And at most, to a whole day of working, they only get paid less than $4. Some states have inmates working with cooking and cleaning or maybe even running the prison sometimes, and they don't even get paid. Imagine working in these harsh conditions, and it's different than the treadmill, but you're still working. These prisoners, these inmates are still working, and they are being affected in many different ways. I mean, isn't being in prison a punishment already? It's a way to keep criminals in a place to be reformed to feel what their punishment is, right? But working them is probably just making them worse and seeing them how different work ethics go through the prison. But is it really a good thing or is it a bad thing? The treadmill was definitely one of the worst things, but I feel like you might compare this to firefighting now, and it is terrible because these prisoners are risking their lives, just like in the treadmills. They have a chance, the firefighters from prisons nowadays, especially in California, have a chance of breathing in so much smoke and getting sick and having maybe even lung cancer. It can get super deep really quickly because these workers are out there putting their life on the line when they're supposed to be in prison, and that's seen as their punishment. It is very hard to see how prisons have gone through treadmills to other labor working to cleaning, and in California, forest fires. Inmates are fighting forest fires. Thank you.